JD Vance, of course, the Vice President. Have a listen. He's been very, very strong on this whole issue of free speech, in particular, free speech outside America, such as here. We want here on JD's radar. Here he is talking the other side.
Yes, ma'am. In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on. Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So
Britain has just endured one of the most humiliating diplomatic moments in recent memory. The United States, supposedly our closest ally, has released an official government report branding Britain authoritarian, not merely worrying or problematic, but flatly authoritarian, with the embarrassment intensified by the timing, as the report dropped while America's incoming Vice President JD Vance was quite literally a guest in the Foreign Secretary's own home, the political equivalent of inviting someone over for dinner, only for them to loudly disgrace you in front of the entire neighbourhood. Before dessert is even served, Washington didn't soften the message or whisper its concerns behind closed doors either. It enshrined them in a formal human rights report for every government, journalist, and watchdog worldwide to see, ensuring this was no discreet nudge but a global megaphone, blasting Britain's failings across the international stage. And if British politics like this matters to you, remember to like the video and subscribe to Dark Britain, because more than 98% of viewers keep watching without following, even though subscribing costs absolutely nothing.
West, the transatlantic relationship, our NATO allies, certainly the United States under the Biden administration, got a little too comfortable with censoring rather than engaging with a diverse array of opinions. So that's been my view. Obviously, I've raised some criticism and concerns about our friends on this side of the Atlantic. But the thing that I'd say to the people of England or to anybody else, to David, is many of the things that I worry most about were happening in the United States from 2020 to 2024. I just don't want other countries to follow us down what I think was a very dark path.
This was not a casual jab or an accidental diplomatic misstep. It was a calculated strike at the heart of Britain's democratic standing. As JD Vance courteously drank tea in the English countryside, his own administration was simultaneously issuing a blunt warning that Britain's democratic foundations are veering into perilous ground. The immediate question, of course, is what pushed Washington to air such criticism so openly. The report is unambiguous: free speech. The US accused Starmer's government of rolling out broad constraints on expression at an alarming pace, with the very first case highlighted being the aggressive handling of the Southport riots. Instead of allowing robust public debate, Starmer's team leaned on social media firms, including American platforms, to remove posts they labelled misinformation. In Washington's view, that crossed a firm boundary. It was seen as government-driven censorship, precisely the kind of behaviour Britain once condemned in other states, and the choice of words, grievous, makes clear that allies now regard Britain not as a democracy making occasional misjudgments, but as a nation drifting toward entrenched, systemic abuse.
The administration is so forthright in talking about these issues, no matter who's in the room. But the question begs, Brad, is he right?
I think he's absolutely right about the United Kingdom and their sad decline in freedom of speech and freedom of press. I mean, you have thousands of people who've been arrested over the years because of things they posted on social media. That is not a free country. That is a kind of modern dystopia, an authoritarian state where the government can roll up with the authorities to come get you because they don't like what you have to say. It is sad to see that happen to one of our greatest allies, a beautiful nation with a long history and legacy as a beacon of freedom in the West. And I also appreciate JD Vance calling them out for it. But But honestly, it will have to come from within. Their own citizens will have to stop standing for it, stop standing for the censorship, stop standing for the overreach, for the absurd policing. You see video after video where the police roll up on somebody for a crude joke that they posted online, or for asking someone, why don't you speak English, or any other sort of thing that's just fundamentally not a police.
But the criticism did not stop there. The United States also highlighted new public space protection orders that give police the power to criminalize even silent prayer in designated areas, meaning a person could be fined or arrested simply for standing quietly with their own thoughts in the wrong location. A level of symbolism so extreme that Washington warned it was drifting toward policing belief itself. Attention then turned to the Online Safety Act, legislation that compels adults to prove their age before accessing websites, while creating pathways for the state to intrude into encrypted communications, producing two deeply unsettling consequences. Your digital identity is no longer truly anonymous, and your private conversations may no longer be beyond government reach. It is a structure that resembles a surveillance state more than a liberal democracy, evoking echoes of George Orwell rather than John Stuart Mill. Then came the final irony. While accepting British hospitality, JD Vance delivered what amounted to a diplomatic warning, arguing that America had made disastrous free speech errors between 2020 and 2024, and that Britain was now repeating those same mistakes on an even grander scale, like a dinner. Guests calmly explaining you're reliving their worst regrets, all while continuing to eat at your table.
And it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
Confronted with this torrent of criticism, one might expect the British Prime Minister to answer with firmness and command. Yet what followed was a performance so weak, it verged on embarrassing. When challenged on free speech, Starmer did not sound like a statesman defending a core democratic principle. He came across like a nervous student stumbling through a viva, unsure of his own answers. At a moment demanding resolve and reassurance, he instead projected uncertainty and unease. The American report, however, showed no such timidity. It dispensed with diplomatic niceties and spoke in stark, unmistakable terms, declaring that Britain is now burdened by serious limits on freedom of expression, and that its government has been erratic in holding officials accountable for misconduct. In a diplomatic culture where even sharp criticism is usually softened with polite language, that degree of bluntness is explosive. The message beneath it is unmistakable. Washington believes Britain has lost its sense of direction, or perhaps, more troublingly, has simply stopped caring where it stands. And this is where the true danger lies. Once a nation is officially branded authoritarian, the harm is extraordinarily hard to reverse. Confidence begins to drain away, subtly at first, then with unsettling momentum. Trade talks grow more complicated. Intelligence cooperation slows. Military partnerships are quietly reassessed. Diplomatic exchanges cool. Allies begin to wonder whether Britain remains the dependable partner they once relied on, or whether it has become erratic and unreliable. This kind of decline does not arrive with fireworks. It is gradual, insidious, and deeply corrosive, and once embedded, it is rarely undone. The longer Britain resists changing direction, the nearer it moves toward real isolation. And perhaps the most troubling truth is this. This may only be the opening chapter. If the government continues to expand surveillance powers, curb speech, and apply hate crime laws unevenly, reports like this will not stop. They will multiply, each one more damaging than the last. Today it is the United States raising the alarm. Tomorrow it could be Brussels, Ottawa, Canberra, or Tokyo. Once that collective warning grows louder, it becomes impossible to dismiss or suppress. The question now facing every citizen is stark and unavoidable. Are we watching a difficult but temporary chapter in Britain's democratic journey, or the live dismantling of democratic Britain itself? For now, people can still argue, protest and question, But even that cannot be taken for granted indefinitely. Rights given up are seldom restored without resistance, and history shows that once a government becomes comfortable silencing voices, it rarely stops at the first move. That is the heart of the crisis. Britain, once celebrated as a model democracy, is now being spoken of as a warning rather than an example. The United States is no longer praising us, it is cautioning the world about us, and that shift from admiration to alarm ought to shock every citizen into attention. Because if this fails to provoke concern, whatever will? At what point does silence become complicity? When do people grasp that their inheritance, the freedoms won through generations of struggle, sacrifice and blood, is being squandered like spare change by negligent leaders? The central question is now unavoidable. Have we already crossed the threshold into authoritarianism? Or are we merely passing through turbulence in democracy's long and fragile journey? Is this moment a necessary wake-up call, or the last warning before freedom fades quietly, without spectacle or resistance? History will deliver its verdict in time, but only if people today are willing to question, challenge, and act. Share your views in the comments, because this is no longer an abstract or academic debate. It is happening now in full view of the world. And while the ability to speak freely still exists, your voice has never been more important. Time is running out, and the question is no longer whether Britain's democratic reputation has been damaged, but whether it can still be salvaged. If you want to stay informed as this story unfolds, be sure to subscribe, because from here on every development counts, and we'll be tracking every single one. Britain, once the standard bearer of democratic values, has become a warning rather than an example. The United States no longer offers praise, it is sounding the alarm to the rest of the world, and that shift from respect to concern should jolt every citizen awake, because if it does not, what possibly will? When does quiet acceptance turn into complicity? When do people recognise that the liberties generations struggled, suffered and died to secure are being squandered like loose change by reckless leadership? Have we already stepped over the line into authoritarianism, or are we merely experiencing turbulence in democracy's long and fragile journey? Is this moment a genuine wake-up call, or the last warning before freedom fades away without noise or resistance? History will pass judgment in time, but only if people today are prepared to question, challenge, and act. This argument is no longer abstract or academic, it is unfolding right now, in full view of the world. While the ability to speak freely still exists, your voice has never carried greater weight. Time is running out, and the issue is no longer whether Britain's democratic reputation has been harmed, but whether it can still be recovered. Stay alert, because every development now matters, and we will be following each one as it happens.